Everyone's got all these lovely 2015 memories. Hi, everyone. Welcome, welcome. How are we going? All ready for some more Pinot? My voice is slightly huskier than usual. I've been doing a lot of talking already this week, um, but I reckon it's going to hang. It's going to hang on in there, and I think the Pinot is going to help. So Craig wins the first comment award tonight. Well done, Craig. Lovely to see you back. We missed you last week. Hope the girls saved you a little bit of wine. Greg and Haley, Anzac Centenary, first women to win the Melbourne Cup. Turnbull becomes the Prime Minister. And we have wine. Indeed, Fiona Inchley and David Inchley, a wedding anniversary, sort of. 2015. Congratulations. Coddy's here. John and Coddy, you got your wine. Good. We've had a little mix up again with our wine packing. So I hope if you haven't checked your box, you might want to just check and make sure you've got all the right wines because we made one mistake. Hopefully it was just one. And Coddy, thank you very much for coming and picking up the right wine. I'm sorry we couldn't get it down to you. Hope it'll be worthwhile. Garen is back indeed. We missed you, Craig. Absolutely. All right. Sarah, hi, Trixes. Good to see you. Let me have a little sip of water and then we'll get into the wine. So I suggested that you brought a decanter because I thought the wine might need just a little bit of air to blow off its bottle time. But Jill and Richard have started with a separate bottle a little bit early and they said it's delicious, so I'm not going to decant. I'm just going to go straight in. Who else is here? Alison and Andrew and Rob and Deb. Hi, Rob and Deb. Welcome back. Missed you. I know you were back last week. Evening, Anne. How you going? Good to see you. All right. So our next 2015 is the Robinson Vineyard Pinot Noir 2015. So 2015 was the first year, I believe, that we had the new artwork for the label. So that was very exciting for us. And I think I talked about this a little bit last week, but we'll have a little recap. While I get it in the glass, most important thing. 2015 was a vintage that we were very happy with. It was a coolish vintage, so we had some really nice flavour development without too much overdevelopment, too much richness. The wine had a beautiful pure let me start that again. I have to apologise right now. I've been up since 5 o'clock this morning, so if I stop being able to put words together, I'll have a sip of wine and hope that helps. No need to decant. Oh, good, David. That's great. And my short-term memory's gone, obviously, as well. What was I talking about? 2015. Fruit purity in the early days. Hello, Jeff. How are you going? I am well again. I'm still slightly husky, but that's more to do with having done 2 wine dinners in a row last night and the night before. I'll tell you about them later once we've had a taste of this wine. But it's been a fun and busy week already. Hello, Sonia. How you going? On the Mornington Peninsula with Jason and Vic. How fantastic. Cooking local mushroom risotto with chestnut garnish. How delicious. That will be a perfect match to this wine. So I was thinking about things to match to this wine and thank you, Jeff. And I thought hard to go past mushrooms. Mushrooms are amazing at the moment. The wild mushrooms are all over the place. If you know what you're picking, then that's good. If you don't, then supermarket mushrooms are pretty good too right now. And just cooking them in a pan with a bit of olive oil or butter, salt and pepper, maybe a little bit of garlic if that's your thing, on toast. Simple, beautiful. I think that would be gorgeous. But mushroom risotto will be gorgeous as well. So I think that'll be good. But again, I have a friend, amazing. I still find it hard to believe. I'm off. I know you never watch this, but anyway, I have a friend who doesn't like mushrooms. So if you don't like mushrooms, you didn't feel like mushrooms, I just thought it's cold and wintry out there, rather than just suggesting a cheese board, why not cheese on toast? I think cheese on toast is pretty good. Oh, yeah, a little bit croaky. Caramelized onion, mushroom, and a hint of goat's cheese tart. Fiona, that sounds delightful. Pineas and wood bluets sautéed with herbs. Beautiful. All right, let's get on to this wine, shall we? We could talk about mushrooms all night. And it was lovely to see some of you here at the mushroom lunch on Sunday, which was very fun, which could be why I'm a bit obsessed with mushrooms still, because it was a fun lunch and it was a delicious lunch. And I thought the mushrooms in the entree were incredible with the different vintages of Robinson Pinot that we had. And we didn't have the 2015, but we sort of tasted around that. So I thought, why not have some mushrooms with this one? Anyway, I'm glad you enjoyed it, David. We enjoyed it too. I think it was a pretty special day. All right, enough about that. Let's talk about the wine. It's still got quite a gorgeous colour to it. It's not getting too garnet in its hue. It's still quite ruby. It's got a bit of density to it. Maybe that's just the big glass I poured myself, but it's certainly not lacking in colour, which is fine. Craig, you don't like mushies till you taste real, fresh, organic mushies, chalk and cheese. That's true. Fiona, that's awesome. Thank you. And it's really interesting. I know I've just been talking about mushrooms, but the nose of this wine, I always find that the Robinson Vineyard, as it ages, you lose some of that primary fruit purity, but you gain some tertiary. Secondary characters come from winemaking. Tertiary characters come from age, either barrel age or bottle age, or a combination of both. So tertiary characters are there's an earthiness, but there's a lovely aromatic of freshly sliced raw mushrooms, almost porcini mushrooms. Shell and Andrew, lovely to see you. Settled in with cheddar on a delicious seeded sourdough and venison from Andrew's family farm. Awesome. So they've got that kind of that fresh raw mushroom kind of aromatic to it, which I really like. I love a mushroom salad with, particularly if it's porcini or something like that. But even good what are they called? The ones that you buy at the supermarket. What are they called, Jill? No, the nice ones from the supermarket with the colour. You served them. Swiss browns. Thank you, Sue. At least we've got someone who knows something about mushrooms at the other table. Thank you, Sue. Swiss browns. Thank you, Dave. David also got onto the Swiss browns. Thank you, David. I really ought to not try and talk to people after I got up at 5 o'clock in the morning. I'm not very good on not enough sleep. Rob and Deb, after a 2-month break from quality wine traveling in Asia, this was the first one we jumped on as soon as we returned. Then and now, I thought it was a great choice. I love this wine. I think this wine is just absolutely singing at the moment. So you've still got that beautiful fruit there. It certainly hasn't faded. But coming through is that little bit of savouriness, that little mushroomy note, that little porcini or cep kind of perfume to it. It's not quite gone truffly yet, but I think this wine with some more age in the cellar will start developing more of that sort of earthy, truffly kind of a note to it. And it may even do that while it's sitting in the glass while we're talking. So let's wait and see. I've put too much in my glass. I can't even swirl it properly. So I'm just a mess tonight. I'm sorry. There's this lovely red rose petal aromatic as well. It's got quite a lovely floral note to it, which I think is rather special, and that's kind of breathing up nicely. And on the palate, it's just gorgeous. It's got lovely crunchy acidity. It's that, what I mean by crunchy acidity, when you bite into like a crunchy red plum or cherry, and it makes it, you can taste all that lovely ripe fruit, but it makes your mouth water as well. I think that is just so lovely. really fresh, really bright. Craig's saying so different from your other aged Pinots, really zingy on the front palate. Yeah, and this is one of the things about 2015, that those wines had beautiful acidity, beautiful tang to them, and really lovely red fruit. So even though the nose is starting to develop some more savouriness, the palate's really bright and lively and youthful still. It's only 8 years old, so it's still got quite a long way to go. It's got that purity of the Robinson Pinot, and even though you've got that real tang of acid, it's not astringent at all. It's got this beautiful silky texture to it, which just makes you want to. So it's making my mouth water. It's making me hungry and thirsty at the same time, which I think is the sign of a really good wine. You have a sip of it, you want to smell it again because it smells so delicious, but you want to put some more in your mouth because it's making your mouth water, and you want to have a little nibble of some food, which I happen not to have. But it's so good. It's so good. As this So last night I was doing a dinner, and there was no Pinot Noir and there was no Chardonnay. It was so sad. It was a dinner that I was doing for a private client, and they wanted to focus on Barossa and Clare Valley wines. Some of you who might keep an eye on my Instagram might have seen some photos. We did a bracket of Rockford Basket Press, and Spinifex Shiraz, which actually the Mopper Vineyard Spinifex Shiraz was delightful. It was really kind of spicy and had some real licorice kind of notes. I thought it was pretty stunning. But because we were in a warmer South Australian climate, Pinot Noir from Barossa and Clare Valley, I don't think really is terribly exciting. There's not very much of it around, and the ones that are having a go at it, it's just because there's a much better grape variety to grow in Barossa and Clare Valley that does very similar things to Pinot Noir in a warmer climate, and that's Grenache. So we had a couple of Grenaches that were really lovely. The Willows Vineyard does a Grenache called G7, which is quite modern, made by the next generation young winemaker. Really kind of crunchy. Still a little bit of that. We talked about Grenache in between boxes a few weeks ago, and so it was really interesting for me to taste these two wines. It was that, and then it was the fave from Toisner, and they were pretty good. Hello, Nareem, and all the dyes. Great to see you. So yeah, they were really interesting. But coming back to Pinot Noir tonight, I know where my heart lies. And David, I won't resign. I do love those gigs because they take me out of my comfort zone, and also they pay me quite well for them. So I have nice pocket money to buy more wine to drink. That makes me happy. So that's really good. Anyway, it's also nice to drink things that maybe are not your first choice, or to taste them at least. I didn't drink very much last night, partly because I had to drive afterwards, but also because I was working and I had to talk to people and be sensible. But it does make you come back to wines that you love and love them even more for all of the reasons. So this wine for me, while Grenache can give perfume and can give lift and can give some silky kind of texture to it, it's still kind of chunkier than Pinot Noir. Doesn't have the finesse, doesn't have the elegance, doesn't have that beautiful acid tang that we're getting in this wine. So I come back to a wine like this and have a little sip, and it just takes me straight home, which is really nice. Good thing on a Thursday night for Drinks with Kate. Shell, that sounds so gorgeous. Venison, wild deer, cooked with garlic, salt, marjoram in butter. Yum. Sounds gorgeous. I do love a bit of wild deer. Sounds very special. It's hard to cook venison well. I think you need to know what you're doing to make sure that it's not overcooked, and that you get all those lovely flavors and all those lovely juices in there. So that sounds awesome. So what else can I tell you about this wine? I still think, so 2015, as I said, was a pretty lovely vintage. We talked last week about how it came after 14, which was really low fruit set and quite a concentrated, chunky vintage. And I think coming after 14, the 15s were a little bit of a relief, certainly to us for our own personal drinking. But talking to our distributor in Melbourne, he was like, he enjoyed selling the 14s, don't get me wrong, and I think the 14s went pretty well, but he said, I just missed that little bit of perfume and that bit of elegance that we usually see in your wine that was perhaps missing in the 14s. We did have some 14s on Sunday, and I thought they stood up really, really nicely in the lineup. But you could see that they were very concentrated because of the very small crop levels and the tiny berries. Less supple, a bit sort of firmer, but developing some nice savoury characters. So, even in a year that's maybe not, we can have years that we prefer over other years that we find easier to make nice wine than other years. And I think for me, 15 is one of the years that I preferred. But it doesn't mean that we don't do our very best to make the most delicious wine that we can from every year. And I think that shows in the wine. So the 14s are still pretty tasty. But if I had 14s and 15s in my cellar, I'd been drinking up the 14s and I'd be saving the 15s for a little bit longer. Rob and Deb, the Parks Focus shooting. Okay, we're on deer now. Parks Focus shooting deer in the reserve next door over the next few weeks, and we put our hand up for a freebie. Fingers crossed. I hope so. Do you know how's your deer butchering skills? Because I know Jeremy has butchered a few deer in his time. So if you need some assistance, I'm sure he'd be delighted to come and help. Hey, Jeremy. I think Jeremy's watching. He's probably cooking 3 meals at the moment. Shell Alison, the first time I had venison was in London in 2007. Okay. Yeah, no, I think wild deer is a good one. And it's certainly become a bit of an issue in the reserve near here, and a lot of feral deer that probably needs culling. So probably that's what we should be eating if we're going to be eating meat, things that need to be sort of thinned out a little bit. And yes, they do go very well. They do go very well with Pinot Noir as well. I'm going to move off the deer killing now and back to the wine. So it's been a bit of a week. How's everyone else's week been? I think, as I say, coming back to this wine, it's got, and it's starting, the savouriness is starting to come through, and the structure is really kind of kicking in there now. I think if you've got some food, that'll kind of soften it out. See you later, Sue. See you, Blue. Blue and Sue came for the beginning of Drinks with Kate Live. I think she's got to go home for her sausages for dinner now. Dad, you could give Sue the rest of that bottle and you could share this one with me. Or is it empty? Oh, you could send it home with Sue so Daryl can taste it if you wanted to. Sharing, it's nice, friendly. Sophie, what is the ashy taste? That's really interesting. Let me think about that. I don't personally get an ashy taste in this wine, Sonia, but I think what you might be talking about, let me have another taste and think about that question. I think it might be a combination of a little bit of new oak that's giving it a bit of savouriness and a little bit more grainy tannin. I think it's also the fruitiness dropping off, and that earthy, the thing I'm calling earthy could very well be your ashy taste. So it's sort of, for me, it tastes like really good quality wet soil smells like, which is a little bit like ash. Fiona's talking about tobacco-like tannins. Yeah, that's what I'm saying, Craig. The wood and earth from the forest floor. We talk about forest floor a lot when we talk about aging Pinot Noir, and that's that I think that's definitely what I'm saying here. But the wine does have pretty firm tannin, and as the initial kind of fruitiness blows off because it's an older wine. So the fruit doesn't hang around for quite as long. Then those savoury, earthy notes are kind of coming forward, and the tannin is becoming more assertive on the palate. With a little bit of food, that'll soften the tannin off and bring the fruit back up again. So if you've got some food with you, some cheese or some mushrooms or something, have a little mouthful and give that a go. Craig went to Melbourne last week. Didn't tell me. How rude. Just joking. And found the Chablis and Oyster Bar. Where is the Chablis and Oyster Bar, Craig? I do not know this thing because I don't go to Melbourne very often. My dinner last night, the other reason I do these occasional dinners up in town is that they're always at nice restaurants, and it was at Cutler and Co last night. The food was terrific. Craig, that's not helping me. Keep typing. So Cutler & Co, terrific food, amazing service. The team there are awesome. And they're part of the Andrew McConnell group. I can't remember what they call themselves now. They've got a new name. But anyway, it's Andrew McConnell's restaurants. And that includes Supernormal and Gimlet, which I haven't been to yet, which I keep trying to get into. It's impossible, even though I know people who work there and write the wine list, still can't get in. So anyway, Gimlet, I hear it's really good. I really want to go. Cumulus Inc., Cumulus Up. Marion Bar, which is next door to Cumulus Inc. Not Cumulus Inc., next door to, where was I last night? Cutler & Co. PE, near Chinatown, only serve Chablis, but Grand Cru by the glass. Oh, goodness, Craig, how fabulous. Hello, Hannah and Jack. I hear Gimlet is great. One day I will get there and find out for myself. But in the meantime, I just have to make do with Paris. I'll tell you about that in a minute too. Craig, I don't know that restaurant at all. Is it called PE, or was that just a typo? How nice to have Grand Cru Chablis by the glass. Only Chablis. How fabulous. Awesome. I'll have to check it out. They're going to run out of Chablis. That's another thing. Pearls. Oh, good. Thank you, Craig. Chablis, like all Chardonnay, this is. I'm saying this with a smile because it's really depressing, so I've got to keep smiling about it. But we have a worldwide Chardonnay shortage. There you go. I said it. So we've been talking about the Chardonnay shortage that we have here on the Mornington Peninsula and at Moorooduc. And I've just been kind of emailing all of our distributors saying we've got 20 dozen of the 2021 estate Chardonnay left for you guys. You need to take it now, or I'm going to sell it at Cellar Door. And then everyone put their hands up and bid for it. So it's just dreadful. It's dreadful that we're running out. We've got a little bit at Cellar Door. So yes, if you need some Chardonnay, it would be a good idea to stock up fairly soon, if not immediately. The 2021 is going to sell out, and the 2022 is not ready to release yet. So that's just a little insider tip for you guys. Good on you, Alison. And Robin Deb, well done. As well as Mornington Peninsula Chardonnay being thin on the ground, literally, there are issues with Chardonnay from France. So Chablis particularly has been hit by frost, 3, I think, out of the last 4 years. And it's done terrible damage. And there have been like Europe-wide frosts that have happened. When was it that we were in Spain, Jill and Richard? 2018? 2017. I think when we were in Spain, they'd had a frost that went everywhere, and then in 2019 when we went back to Europe and went to Austria and Germany, there'd been another frost that hit all of the vineyards across most of Europe, and so we're experiencing major wine shortages from Europe as well, particularly Chardonnay. Uh, and I'm sorry to tell you, Tassie Chardonnay supplies are even tighter. I was talking to my Victorian distributor the other day, and he said, "Oh, this wine and that wine," because they've got 4 or 5 different Tasmanian producers that they sell, and he said, "Their Chardonnays are awesome. You need to buy a couple of bottles now because they've just been released and we're about to sell out, and just don't waste time." And I'm like, "This is ridiculous." And he said, "Yeah, I know. It is ridiculous." Shell Big Chardonnay playing the De Beers card with false scarcity. Yes, indeed. I wish that was so. I wish that we were like tricking you into buying more Chardonnay by telling you that it's going to run out, but it absolutely is going to. Hunter is ripping old vine semi-on out and planting Chardonnay. Yeah, see, Hunter's not the place to grow Chardonnay. This is not the solution, I don't think. I think that what we're seeing, and I'm sorry to be talking about Chardonnay while we're drinking Pinot Noir, but you'll be happy to know that your Pinot Noir stock is relatively safe at the moment. You never know what might happen in the future, but at the moment we have quite a lot of Pinot Noir to keep going with, so that's nice. I agree, Jackie. There's some very nice, good Chardonnay in the Margaret River, but again, they're selling through it pretty quickly because lots of people have come back to Chardonnay. It's cool again. Lots of people are drinking it. They're drinking Chablis. They're drinking cool climate Australian Chardonnay. They're drinking all sorts of things, Chardonnay. And now we're running out because everyone's come back to it, which is a terrible shame because we were drowning in it a few years ago. Anne wants to know if Rieslings have been affected in the same way. And they have to a certain extent, Anne, but Riesling's still deeply unpopular. So you're in the minority if you're buying Australian Riesling. And it's good value for money, and there's a lot of people who still don't know about it or rate it. So I would say, yes, there's going to be smaller quantities of Riesling, but it's going to be less of an issue because you're not competing with it's not growing in popularity in the way that Chardonnay is at the moment. So buying Riesling, aging it yourself, or even buying aged Riesling. And I know I don't usually spruik the big groups and chains, but I actually think Dan Murphy's has a really good program of cellar wine, and they have things like Taylor's Riesling, which is when on release it used to be $10 a bottle. It probably isn't much more than that still, but they'll I'm not sure if they buy it from Taylor's pre-aged or whether they age it themselves. I don't really care, but they do have their little aged wine section, and you can buy some really good quality Australian Rieslings with sort of 5, 6, 7, 8 years of age on them for a reasonable price. So if you're looking to try some aged Riesling, that'd be a good place to go, because there's not many people who sell stuff with bottle age, unfortunately, because it's hard to hold on to it without incurring costs. So how's this Pinot evolving? Just coming back to the subject of the evening. It's really interesting. It's so earthy now. It's really kind of got that. It's almost granitic in its sort of earthy, stony kind of character, and the fruit's got darker. It's more dark cherry. There's some black rose petal character coming out now. It's really evolved into more sort of savoury, darker petrichor. Thank you, Fiona. We love that word. It's a good word. Yeah. Oh God, I do love seeing wine through our chats. I do love seeing how the wine evolves in the glass. I think it's such an important part of this process is having that time to spend with it, and it's just evolving beautifully. So to me, that means that that wine, if you have some in your cellar and you want to keep aging it, then it's going to keep improving. Mm. Yeah, I reckon, Craig, you might be right. When I opened it and pulled it out, I went, no, that's beautiful. Didn't need a decant, but it's changing so much now that perhaps if we had given it a decant, then it would have got there sooner. But on the other hand, this is a conversation that I have a lot with people at wine dinners and that kind of thing. With Pinot Noir, I think unless you, and we've done this before, we've talked about this before, I'm really happy with Pinot Noir, particularly if it's young or a wine like this that maybe, I don't think this wine had any kind of, it didn't have any stinky characters, so it didn't really need the air to air it off to, get to where we wanted to drink it, but it might have kicked it along to this sort of darker, more structured kind of style quicker. But with Pinot Noir, if you're going to decant it, only decant it just before you're going to drink it. I think it's such a shame to decant. Oh, good, Sonia. You're ahead of us all. And you're right, Craig, the journey is part of the fun. But if you decant Pinot Noir too early, then you miss part of that journey and you miss a part of that evolution. So I think I'm still happy I didn't decant it, and I'm glad you are too, Shell. Cuddy also enjoys tasting the evolution from the opening on. I think that's awesome. Thank you, David. David's just popped up with all the 21 Pinots are amazing, and we are delighted with the 21 Pinots. It was beautiful vintage, and the wines are looking terrific on release. So if you haven't had a chance to taste them yet, you should get on down to Cellar Door and have a taste because they're on tasting at the moment. But we'll also include them in future tasting boxes, whether we do them all in the next box or whether I kind of, eke it out, tease you with different ones over a couple of boxes. I haven't decided what I'm going to do yet, but we'll definitely taste them together here as well. So that's something to look forward to. I was going to say about the decanting thing, because when we're talking about Pinot Noir and decanting, I'm quite adamant that, because a lot of people say don't decant Pinot Noir, and I don't agree with that, but if you're going to decant it just before you're going to drink it, because you just want to get a little bit of air into it to get it started. Whereas last night with the basket press Shiraz, we opened them. I got to the restaurant at just after 4 o'clock. I started opening them then. I had 8 bottles of each of 4 vintages. So I got them all open, checked them, had a couple of cork bottles, had to reject a couple, but double decanted those wines. And we had the 15, the 14, the 12 and the 09. So double decanting is putting it into the decanter and then back into the bottle again. And then they started pouring them at about 5:30, 6 o'clock for a dinner that started at 7, but they didn't get the wine on the table. So they had all this wine poured in glasses across all the flat surfaces of the restaurant that we weren't sitting in. It was quite the sight. And the wines were served to the guests at about 9 o'clock, and they were still tight, the young ones, and they were still opening up. And it was really quite amazing and eye-opening to see how long those wines needed, how much air those wines needed to really start showing some of their character. So it is a really good lesson in, if you're drinking young wine, particularly if you're drinking young Shiraz or young Cabernet, a decant, and Nebbiolo as well. Craig, we've talked about this before, but Nebbiolo, Barolo, that kind of thing. Even old Barolo can handle being decanted an hour before you're going to drink it, because it just changes so slowly with air. It's pretty remarkable. So it's a whole nother art/science, is how to decant what wine when, and all of that sort of thing. So there's always something more to learn. Am I teasing you with the 21s, Craig, or am I teasing you with the basket press, or probably both? I have to tell you, on the subject of the 21 Pinots, David, the dinner that I was at on, where are we up to? On Tuesday night was amazing. Again, if you follow me on social media, I think I put it on the Moorooduc Instagram, the menu. I didn't take any photos because I was too busy being sort of overwhelmed by the fact that we'd been chosen and been involved in this thing. It was an amazing Shell reckons if you buy a young wine, pour it at breakfast to drink it at lunch. Absolutely. Yes, Fiona, the Farmer's Daughters one. So first of all, I can highly recommend the food at Victoria at Farmer's Daughter, I think it's called. So Farmer's Daughter was a restaurant that opened up to showcase the produce of Gippsland. And they had a lot of, they said on Tuesday night that they had a lot of people from other parts of Victoria saying, oh, you should, use our stuff too. So they opened up the second restaurant, Victoria, to celebrate all the produce of our great state of Victoria. And on Tuesday night, Victoria by Farmer's Daughter. Thanks, Anne. Yeah, it's on Federation Square. It's a beautiful restaurant. The food was delicious. I thought it was brilliantly done, and it was an event that was put on by Wine Victoria and another Victorian tourism innovator, and very much funded by the Victorian government. And they'd flown half a dozen people, buyers, influencers out from Asia, from Vietnam and Hong Kong and Singapore, and another half a dozen or so from the US of A. And then there were all these amazing winemakers at this dinner. 9 wines were featured, and some VIPs from the Victorian State Government. And there were 2 Pinots poured on the night, and one of them was the new Bindi Close Planted wine, and the other one was the 2021 McIntyre Pinot. And I was so proud to be there representing Moorooduc and that Pinot, and it was a lot of people's favourite wine for the night. A lot of people came up and spoke to me about what a brilliant wine it was and how delicious it looked. And I'm standing there next to Michael Dillon and Julian Castagna from Castagna Winery, and all sorts of amazing producers talking about the gift of families starting vineyards and taking the wisdom from one vintage to another, and one generation to another, and passing these things on, and looking after the little patch of earth that we're put in charge of. And it was so amazing, and I was incredibly humbled to be there, and super excited for me, but also for Mum and Dad that our wine had been selected for that event. And it was really cool. So as I say, I've had a big week. It's only Thursday. It was really, really. Does he speak in poems? Are you talking about Julian Castagna, or are you talking about Michael Dillon? Michael Dillon, probably, because Michael Dillon is quite poetic when he speaks. He's so Michael Dillon owns Bindi Winery. If anyone didn't know, which is quite an iconic Pinot Noir and Chardonnay producing winery in Macedon. Michael Dillon is one of the loveliest people I know. He is very tall. He's cut his hair short, so he doesn't look as much like it, but his nickname is Elvis because he looks like Elvis Presley, and he hates it. His father, whose name was Dashan, came from India and came to Australia to study and met his mum, who's white Australian, whose family had farmed in Macedon for 4 or 5 generations, and they planted vines. And Michael's dad died too early, and pretty much everything that he does now, I think he's about my age. He might be a little bit older or a little bit younger, but let's say he's about 50. And he just is incredibly thoughtful and quite poetic in the way that he talks about wine and his approach. And this wine that we tasted of his is his Dashan, first released Dashan Pinot Noir, which is named after his dad. It's a close planted vineyard. It's the 2019. If you get a chance to taste it, you should go and check it out. Would love to put it. Thank you, Craig. Would love to put it in one of our boxes, but there's no way I'm going to be able to buy 4 dozen of it from him because it's very highly regarded and very difficult to get hold of. So check it out if you can. And if you want to read some really, sometimes they're quite long, but very thoughtful and contemplative ideas about what he's trying to do in winemaking, follow him on Instagram. He does post enormous posts, so lovely photos with like a essay attached to it. You have to be in the mood to read them, but when you are in the mood, they're rather beautiful. So check it out. He's very thoughtful and considerate, and lovely person to stand up in front of a group of people with, because he also speaks very, very well. So, and his wine looked good too. So that was fun. And Sandra Dupury from Yeringberg, we had her Cabernet Merlot. So it was a night of stars. It was really super. Thanks, David. So yes, let's now, coming back from my starstruck night of stars. Let's see how this one's looking. Jill and Richard have both fallen asleep. They both look like they're about to fall off their chairs. Poor things. They've also had a big day. Oh no, Richard's woken up. Jill's woken up. Hey, woo! They had to look after Polly for 2 nights in a row. This wine is still changing, and I'm still on my first glass. Some of you might have re-poured, and you know, when you re-pour, you get a bit more of that fruitiness coming through. Second bit, yes, they're not very energized at the moment. I think they'll be pleased when I finish and go home and they can go to bed. Jeff, I'm so glad that you enjoyed the Robinson 21. So I think that those 21s, coming back to them, are absolutely delicious, and we will taste them together. But I think that probably the 21s potentially will age quite similarly to the 15s, in that they've got really good acid, they've got good brightness of fruit, they've got nice purity of fruit as well. They're maybe a little bit more delicate than the 15s, but I think they're not too dissimilar. So, yeah, if you have a favourite vineyard from the Robinson, McIntyre and Garden vineyard, then I would say just put your hand up for a 6-pack, a dozen, whatever, of the 2021s while they're still around, because again, I think they're going to go pretty quickly. Anyway, I will make sure that I spruik them to you again when they're running short, when they're running low, just to give you ample chance. Okay, that one is more earthy now. So the fruit is starting to fall away a little bit in the glass. I'm sure it's, if you give it a top up, that'll bring that fruit back. But what a lovely wine to have on a cold, wintry Thursday night. It's been a real pleasure to share that with you. And I think that if you were mushrooming, if you were cheese on toasting, venisoning, I think they're all great matches to this line. I'm going to have to warn you that the next two wines that we're going to do over the next 4 weeks, if that doesn't make sense to you, just have a look at the letter that went in with your box. If you happened to get a box that didn't have a letter in it, that shouldn't have happened. So do let me know and I'll email it to you. But we also have the list of wines and the dates that we're tasting them on the website. So if you need to check that, then it's in the shop on the website. You can check that out. But the next 4 weeks, the next 4 Thursdays, I'm going to be away. I am going to attempt to do Drinks with Kate next Thursday from my friend's house in London. It'll be morning time for me. I think it'll be maybe 8 o'clock in the morning or 9 o'clock in the morning. I'm not sure. It's summer there, winter here. I haven't quite worked out the time difference. I'll have it worked out by next week. So 6 p.m. for you guys, whatever time it is for me, we'll do that. That's the McIntyre 2015 Pinot Noir. So that'll be fun. Then we have a break for the next week because I'm going to be on an aeroplane flying to Germany. The following week, I think I will be able to do Drinks with Kate. I think I will be in Plymouth or Bristol. I can't remember. I haven't learnt my itinerary yet, but I'll be in a hotel room somewhere with a bottle of wine. That will be the hardest one because at least next week I'll be able to open the wine, taste it with you guys, leave it for my friends because Charlotte and I are catching a train. Oh, maybe we'll take it on the train. No, we're catching a train to Paris that afternoon. So I won't need to take wine with me, but I'll leave it with my friends. That'll be a treat for them for their dinner. And yes, 3 weeks into my trip, we'll do, I can't remember what the next wine is, but I'll check it before we do it. Bacon, eggs and mushrooms. That could be quite good, Jackie, actually, with Pinot for breakfast next week. I'll talk to Karen about that. And then the following week, I'll be on a plane coming back to Australia. So we're going to stretch this box out a little bit. We'll be doing 2 wines in 4 weeks, and then we'll get back into hopefully a bit more of a normal rhythm after that. And when I get back, we'll have 1 more wine to do, and then we'll have a break for a week or 2, and then we'll do the next box if you're still keen. So that's a little précis of what's going to happen over the rest of June, July, going into August. I think that's going to be fun. Sonia, so the nose has disappeared. Has the nose disappeared for you? I don't think the nose has disappeared. I'm just smelling different things. I'm smelling earthy notes. I'm smelling more mossy notes. I'm smelling still that mushroomy character. But not so much fruit, not so much of the cherry, not so much of the red cherry fruit that I got right at the beginning. And not so much of the floral notes. The rose petals have faded away. On the palate, it's still delicious. It's still tangy. Oh, man, I need to take some of this home and have it with some dinner. I think that would be delicious. Good babying, good work, team. David, I think I will be passing on the greasy spoon and Pinot. My beautiful friend Karen is very good at looking after us, and she'll probably have a nice bowl of, because it's been hot in London this last week, so I'll probably get cold by the time we get there. But anyway, fun and games. She'll have a nice bowl of fresh fruit for us and some granola and muesli. But I might have to talk about some eggs and mushrooms maybe to go with the Pinot. Anyway. That'll be next week. I'll be broadcasting from summer. If we have any technical issues next week, I'll apologise now. But I reckon we'll be okay because Karen and Andy have got good Wi-Fi, good reception. You might have some extra people sticking their heads in saying good morning. So, and a different dog, I think. They're fostering a dog. I know, it'll be very sad. I haven't spoken to Polly about it yet, so we're not talking about that. Where's she gone? Oh, she's Jill's dog now anyway. She's rejected me. She's sitting over there with Jill waiting for her dinner. Little patient girl. All right, guys. I'm going to love you and leave you. It's been awesome. God, it's 50 minutes. Why did you let me talk for so long? Have a lovely evening. I will see you next week from the UK. In the meantime, take care. Stay safe and love you all very much. I'll see you soon. Bye.